remember walking in there with you guys when it was like completely not even, you didn't even start construction.
Yeah.
Which sucked.
You're listening to the Bar and Restaurant Podcast, where hospitality lovers come to listen and learn with expert David DiLorenzo.
Back on the Bar and Restaurant Podcast. I am your host, the Delo, and I have a picture of myself on the shirt. I have two very special guests, very good friends of mine who I love dearly, Jim Bob and Kelsey.
Hey, now. Love you back.
Oh, thank you. The owners of Worth Takeaway, which is a very sought-out restaurant in Mesa. You two are very humble. It's all good, but I want to, I was so excited to have you both on because, I want people to hear your story, albeit there's a lot of people that know about the restaurant, but you guys are pretty quiet as individuals. It's very hard to find too much information about you, so I wanted to kind of dig into where and how and what and everything that came from the very beginning. So I'm going to start with Kelsey. You are from Arizona?
Originally Southern California, but I couldn't tell you hardly any memories of Southern California. I've been here for 30 years or so.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So basically it was just like you were born and
they moved
right
me.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I could have had, a house by the ocean or something, but you had to come to Arizona.
You had to come to the desert. And
yeah.
Was there talking to your parents and past, was there a reason why they had come out?
Actually my family is very spiritual and religious, and my dad was what he would refer to as a church planter, meaning he would start new churches in communities that didn't have a whole lot of churches, and there's a lot of very well-known evangelical churches in the East Valley that he played a huge part in starting. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's all I knew for like most of my childhood was church.
And you went to church a lot, I would assume?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Twice a week, yeah.
Twice a week.
Well, you would do like regular Sunday, and then you would do your discipleship group or whatever you want to call it in the middle of the week with your girlfriends and stuff. So.
And you have siblings?
Mm-hmm. I have 2 siblings. I have an older sister and an older brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everybody just came out. Now, are they still both out here or no?
Yeah. My brother is 6 years older than me, and he lives in Gilbert, and my sister lives in Queen Creek, and she's 4 years older than me.
Okay, so nobody really moved very far from.
No.
Yeah.
No. Honestly, if we didn't have a business, we probably would have been the ones to move.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard now.
And you went to Gilbert High School?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dude, how do you know this about me?
Huh?
Your research.
Well, I can do a little bit of research on you. It's the enigma of your husband here that.
Yeah. Well, you know how much work it is to be a public figure, and to put work into being known publicly. It's a lot, and I don't think we have the patience for it.
Yeah. Well, you have quite a successful business to run on top of that. All right, Jim Bob, where were you born?
Houston, Texas. Go Stros, even though they are getting destroyed right now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It's been a rough week.
So, yeah. It's been really sad around
sensitive.
our house. Yeah.
A little sensitive.
That's okay, though.
Yeah.
I was hoping to, cast the cheater thing aside and
Yeah.
have them win the World Series without people, saying anything.
You like your baseball, don't you?
Astros specifically.
Yeah.
Diamondbacks are cool. I can respect them, but yeah.
So-
Astros specifically.
Loyal.
So growing up as a kid in Houston, how long were you out there?
I grew up in Houston until I was 8, and then moved in with my dad into San Antonio for 2 years after that, maybe a year and a half. And he got a divorce, and then we moved down by Mexico, which was a really interesting situation. And he didn't really enjoy it too much, and then we moved to Gilbert, Arizona.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so you moved a few times. What was your childhood like as far as your heroes? And were you more of a sports guy? Were you more like a stormtrooper guy?
I think my upbringing is probably a little bit different than most.
Yeah.
My mom loved to party, and I grew up with my mom, and she wasn't really around much. She chased bands and stuff.
Yeah.
So some people call him a groupie, but she just liked to party. So my mom had her own lifestyle, and then I ended up moving in with my dad. But when I lived with my mom, like there was no real rules because she was out doing her own thing. So sometimes I'd wake up and it would be Tuesday at 9 a.m. and I wouldn't know that I had to go to school. So
Yeah.
I really didn't like grow up like typical.
Typical childhood.
But you loved G.I. Joe and
Yeah, I mean, you know, after school
toys
cartoons.
were a big thing.
After school cartoons were a big
Yeah.
thing for me. Just like something to encapsulate me.
Imaginary friends. I
Yeah.
had those.
No, I had real friends, but not too many.
Right.
I lived in an area where it was just very diverse, and like my sister was in gangs and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Got it. Wow.
Yeah.
Look at
I mean, I can dive deeper if you want, but
No, I think that's definitely a good start. I
Yeah.
mean, the really cool aspect of two very, I mean, you look
so
at the whole, I
different.
mean,
Yeah.
like, you know, almost a nun, you know, almost a gang member. It's like,
maybe.
and now together running a successful
It's-
business. I love it.
We talk about it all the time, how bizarre and how polar opposites our upbringings were. I mean, he was trying to stay out of trouble or didn't even have anyone to tell him what trouble was or wasn't,
Right.
you know, and kind of like a really hard life with some negative influences around him that if he hadn't maybe been moved out of that environment, you know, his life could be really, really different. And that's like kind of diving into like personal moral compass. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand how he turned out to be like such a good guy as an adult, because he just really was kind of in, you know, these negative environments. And then even after he moved to Arizona, his dad worked graveyard shifts. And it was just him and his dad. So he was, you know, making it up as he went.
I ran solo for a lot.
And I had
Yeah,
all the
no,
rules. I had
yeah.
every rule.
Yeah, every rule known to man.
Every rule was, you know, how I lived my life. And I was afraid to like take one step, you know, off course. So it was very interesting that we even get along.
Yeah, I mean, opposites do attract. I mean,
Yeah.
So
know,
you're
what-
Paula Abdul and I'm the stray cat.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Gotta love that.
I wouldn't have used that analogy, but okay.
That's the song, Opposites Attract.
Yeah, you and I are
Yeah.
pretty much that same age of generational videos. That's so funny. So okay, so you're in Gilbert now. You're pretty much on your own. Did you, high school, college was
Moved to Gilbert like 1989.
yeah.
Same year pretty much as Kelsey.
90, yeah.
Yeah, so, but there is an age gap between us, so it's not like we really crossed paths. If we did, it would have been really creepy. But
We're very grateful for
yeah.
when we did meet, because it was like beyond
it was
that
appropriate.
time frame that it would have been weird.
Mm-hmm.
So
My dad always wanted to move to Gilbert. He had family that has lived in downtown Gilbert since like the 40s and 50s. And so for him, Gilbert really spoke to him when he was younger, coming out and hanging out with cousins of similar age to him. So
and they lived under the water tower, like
Yeah.
they
Oh, wow.
were like downtown Gilbert. Yeah.
So my dad thought it would be a good choice for him and for me to have some cousins around, since I really didn't have anybody of a like age.
Yeah.
And so we moved to Gilbert in '89. Just kind of messed around with my cousins for a while. I graduated high school, never went to college. But you know, that's kind of a nutshell in regards to what my education was.
Yeah.
Other than trying to learn things hands-on. You know, I got put in the workforce really early with my dad. It was kind of like, you need to get a job or get out.
And what was the first job that you?
My first job ever?
Yeah.
Selling newspapers door to door at the age of 13, and it sucked.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was based on subscriptions. It wasn't like, oh, you get paid to like do this. It was, you sell stuff, you get paid. So it was my first job, and it was all commission based. But there were days where I'd only make like $5 or $10, working like 4 or 5 hours,
Yeah.
and not like getting to like do fun things, like go out and horse around sometimes. But afterwards, they'd take us to McDonald's, and I would just blow $5 to $10 every day. So I never really made any money.
Oh, they wouldn't even pay for the McDonald's. You'd have to blow your own money on it.
So that was my first job ever, but it really wasn't a real job. So
But don't you think that even something like that you remember now just kind of puts in your mind of what you didn't want to do in the future and like work ethic of just knowing the value of money?
yes, I mean, they used to drop us off in neighborhoods, and this is before cell phones, and it would be like,
The 90s.
yeah,
Right, yeah.
meet us back here in an hour, and you would just like run up and down streets knocking on doors trying to get people. And one time they forgot me.
Oh, jeez.
And it was in Chandler. And for me, Chandler could have been Alaska compared to where Gilbert was.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to get home. Luckily enough, I sat on the curb for like 2 or 3 hours till the individual who was driving the van saw me and picked me up. So,
And it's not like you have anything to preoccupy your time. Like
no,
no
nothing.
Phone, no,
Right.
Yeah. So I thought I lived in Chandler, but I was like, oh, I live in Chandler now.
Everything looks so big when you're 13.
Oh my gosh.
It's like,
Yeah.
whoa.
But I mean, when I was 13, I was also like riding a bike all the way from downtown Gilbert to Fiesta Mall. So like I wasn't afraid of exploring, but never really explored Chandler. So for me, I was just like, I'm really lost right now. I don't know where to go.
Oh goodness. It reminds me of being a kid. I remember those areas. And Kelsey, you went to ASU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what is it? What was the degree you got?
Dietetics.
Dietetics. Yeah. Explain what that is.
It's basically nutrition. It's the
Okay.
science of nutrition. And I think a lot of people, I mean, if you get into the nutrition community and the hardcore kind of like science approach to it all and the scientific background of it, there's a lot of different opinions on the field and the study. And it's a much more difficult degree than I think people realize. I think, you hear nutrition things and you see what people do on, the internet nowadays too with nutrition. And, I took biochem and OChem and like really high level, science classes that weren't easy. And, it was a challenge. And in a lot of ways I don't use, the specifics of my degree at this point, but it taught me how to teach myself, which is for me as a business owner invaluable, like to be able to put my head down for 5 hours at a time and learn a new topic or area that I didn't know before that, or become more familiar with it and figure out how to do things. That was for me my whole college experience, because I kind of came from a really sheltered place, and then to college where it was like, all right, there you go, figure it all out, figure out your life. So learning new things and even teaching myself through my career before Worth. It was a lot of, okay, well, here you go, do this, figure it out. So it was, okay, I have to sit down with a book, and even though it's super dry and really, uninteresting in some cases, sometimes it's very interesting, like certain sciences I really enjoyed more than others, but, sitting down and going, okay, like I just have to push through this and reread the same paragraph 5 times until I get it.
and my assumption with nutrition, it's a lot of like the molecular breakdown of proteins and carbs and just stuff, how it works within people's systems.
Exactly. How you absorb it into your body, what your body does with it after you've absorbed it. There's different, nutrient interactions that you have to look at. You look at micronutrients and macronutrients. You have to, but before you even get that far, you have to learn about the human body itself and anatomy. And so, it was a really complicated degree that personally, I probably didn't know what I was getting into when I started. I was just like, oh, nutrition sounds good. I like that. I read the back of labels and things like that.
Well, a lot to be proud of. I mean, you think of all the work that you put into it and the ever evolving aspect of what the word nutrition is nowadays, because food is completely different from what it was even 10 years ago. Right.
That's what people don't realize. It's a super flexible science in that sense, and really all science is. And on the topic of science in our world today, that's something that I think people who really understand the nature of science and how it works understands that it will constantly change, because we just are always learning more and disproving theories or finding out more about a certain theory and evolving. And so, it's, you kind of have to hold on to it loosely.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So then you're both getting into the restaurant business in one facet or the other. What was your first restaurant job?
My first was cooking shrimp at Red Lobster as a fry cook.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was no fun because my KM...
How old were you?
I was 16. My KM didn't give me a timer and didn't really explain anything, so it was just like, eat them till you know they're done. So I was eating raw shrimp my first day for probably like my first 2 or 3 hours.
How'd that work for you?
It wasn't fun. I mean, I was just spitting them out. It wasn't like I was digesting them, but just putting like cold fried shrimp in your mouth. It was like, So that was my first restaurant job. I learned after a few months, like 2 or 3 months, that like I did not like working for that individual, not necessarily working in kitchens, but it was like really cool to work as a team because like it's like you got to get this out at a certain time. And so that was really enjoyable. And then I got out of restaurants for quite a while. After I graduated high school, I went to work where my dad worked, and I hated it because I was doing like 12-hour days. So as an 18-year-old doing like 12-hour days and all your friends are out messing around, it got a little tough. And
it was like machine work, right?
Yeah, I worked in a machine shop.
Physical labor.
Yeah.
I was painting stuff a lot, like airplane parts. So, but that was interesting. I made really good money.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go serve. And so I got a job at Applebee's. And
Well, you hit all the big ones.
which was cool. Yeah. I got a job at Applebee's and I enjoyed it. I was a server and making $2.13 an hour filling salt and pepper shakers at the end of the night was not like my favorite part.
Yeah.
And then I got recruited to go work at Home Depot shortly after that because it was in the same parking lot and they would come over and eat lunch and they were like, you should come work at Home Depot. And I was just like, oh, yeah. So I went to work at Home Depot and then I took a long break from restaurants and then Kelsey encouraged me.
And Home Depot, you were there for 7-8 years?
Yeah, almost 8 years.
So, like, and you wore the orange
The apron
vest
that
and-
weighed heavy on your neck? Yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely. I wish it was a vest. No, it was an
It was a
apron.
big- yeah.
I started out pushing shopping carts, and within my first 18 months, I made it to an assistant manager, and then shortly after that, I made it to a store manager.
So you're making decent money at Home Depot. I mean, for
Dude, I started
get
out.
your own tool belt.
We went over this the other day because we got stuck in traffic for like
We're coming back
5
from Prescott.
hours.
There's a
Oh,
car
yeah.
on
so
fire.
this is all very fresh in my mind
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we just went over
Yeah.
it all again.
I started
recently.
out making $8 an hour pushing shopping carts, and before I got promoted to an assistant manager, I was making $23 an hour. So within 18 months, I went from $8 to $23 an hour. So
This was still in the 90s.
still in the 90s.
So that was a lot of money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
in the 90s.
amazing.
It's a ton of money.
Yeah, like a badge and a tool belt.
Yeah.
And, I mean, all that cool
All of
stuff.
it.
Helping people. Wow. And then your first restaurant job?
Oh my gosh, I had to think about it. Red Robin.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Red Lobster, Red Robin. I mean,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
beautiful
We're the
is
red
that?
babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I served, and actually, I served first. I didn't host. Usually people host or they're
Right.
a busser or whatever. So I served, and then I actually kind of worked backwards later on in my career after college and after working in the nutrition field. I went back to restaurants, and the only position they had at the restaurant I wanted to work at was being a host. And so
Yeah.
I was like, all right, sign me up. And I'm so glad I did it because I ended up working every position you could really in that store.
Yeah.
And I feel so much better equipped to be doing what we're doing now. So I was grateful for it.
Was there any pressures, like, as you're going to college and getting out to look for jobs and do this, to get more into the religious field of things? Or
I think for like my brother and for men,
yeah.
I think it was a very like prominent thing. I think when I got into my late teens, I think my parents they would have just been happy if I had been like quote a good girl, but I wasn't
Got it.
really.
Okay.
I kind of like went off on my
You
own
rebelled a little bit.
and rebelled a little bit
Yeah.
and stopped going to church. So I think they pretty quickly realized that probably wasn't going to be in my career path, that
Yeah.
I wasn't like, some of our other family members. Just to give you some background, my dad is one of 4 boys, and all 3 of his brothers were pastors at one given time,
Gotcha.
including him.
Okay.
So my dad was a pastor, and then all of his brothers were, and so it was a very, our family was very religious.
Yeah.
So like I think the men felt a little more pressure to go that route,
Carry on that
and
tradition.
some of them have, and
Yeah.
but for me, no, I think my parents kind of, I'm not gonna say they were like giving up on me, but they were like, hey, if you just could like go to church or like stop swearing or like they were
You're
really
like, how the fuck am I going to do that?
oh my gosh,
I
I
can
said
swear on this.
I said damn
It's my
it
podcast.
I said damn it in front of my dad once, and he was like, what? And I think I was 22. Like it was a big deal.
You didn't say the J word, did you?
The J word.
Jesus?
No, oh well, I mean, I could play that one off.
No, you
you
could.
know,
Praise
yeah,
him.
yeah.
Praise Jesus. Oh, my
Praise him.
goodness.
Jesus, hallelujah.
So at what point now that we've gotten you guys up through your first jobs and this and that, at what point did you guys end up having contact with each other and meeting for the first time?
In a restaurant.
Yeah, in a restaurant. So it's very appropriate. Me and a core group of friends of mine would always go to a place where Kelsey worked, and she was a server. and we would go every Sunday night just to hang out. And
Because there was a happy hour special,
yeah,
so
the
that was
happy
like
hour,
their scene.
The happy hour was really good. It was raw. In Gilbert, or is it Mesa, technically? Technically Mesa.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And
I helped open that store, so I was cocktail.
Yeah, Raw was cranking back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a party.
so we would cruise down every Sunday night, hang out for 2 or 3 hours. Kelsey was usually the server, and I never hit on her, just had casual conversations.
It was so weird to me. I was like, this guy is so nice, and he asks me questions about my life, and then when he comes the next week, he remembers my answers, and he follows up on them, and he never asks me out on a date. He just, like, cares about me as a human being. This is really weird.
That is weird.
It
Wow.
felt very odd and out of place.
I didn't want to be selfish and ask her out because it was a weekly thing for me and my friends.
You didn't want to ruin it.
Yeah, I didn't want to ruin it.
You don't want to ruin the weekend
she
case.
easily could have been like no, and then like the whole vibe.
So how many weeks does this go by?
Oh, it's like a year.
Months.
Yeah.
No, okay, that's a broad way of looking at it. I think we started kind of talking in maybe March.
Yeah.
And then by September, he was like, actually, at that time I didn't work there anymore, and so he had like followed up with me and was like, hey, like, do you want to, like, my friends and I are going to a concert. Do you want to come? Like, it was always like these group things.
Yeah.
So I didn't even realize.
It was
like,
always no too.
What was that concert?
I didn't.
He invited you?
What was it?
I invited her to Matt Nathanson once. Where was he playing? It's somewhere in Scottsdale. And then
What was the name of that club? I don't remember anything
Cajun
anymore.
No.
I turned 30 a few years ago,
yeah.
and I don't remember anything anymore.
When you forget
I can't
about-
It's all
imagine
downhill
how
from now.
it's after this.
And then there was another one, Ryan Adams.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I invited her to that.
I said no to that.
You said no to a lot of things.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
did see Ryan Adams eventually, though, together. So
Yeah, you said
made
no
up
to a
for it.
gaggle.
So some courting going on, some just being respectful.
Yeah.
and- yeah.
I had gotten out of a serious relationship,
Yeah.
like 2 pretty serious relationships, and honestly, like, he makes it sound like I was just like cruel and like.
No, not at all. You just have
No, I'm
boundaries.
not interested. I was going through a lot, and I was like, man, he seems like a really nice guy, and like, I don't want to fuck him up.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'm just gonna like give myself some time
How
because
mature of you to think that.
I
you
really-
knew what-
Yeah.
honestly
You
though,
knew what was best.
I really was like, I'm
Yeah.
trouble right now, and I'm not trying to bring trouble into this dude's life. He seems nice. Like,
So what was your first date?
Our first date was
Oh my
horrible.
gosh.
We went to Cornish Pasty.
our second date was great,
Yeah,
but our
we went
first
to
date was-
Cornish Pasty, and
This
she had
was
never,
before anyone really knew about Cornish Pasty. It was
Yeah, it
like
was
when
just
it
the
was
hallway.
the hallway in
Okay.
Tempe
Yeah.
before they expanded.
But she was like, "Take me to your favorite place." So I took her to Cornish Pasty, and
Well, because you kept being like, hey, let's go to Cowboy Chow and all these places that seemed fancy to me at the time because
Yeah.
I was like 22. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't afford to like go to any of these places because my mindset, I'm like, oh, like I'm going to help pay for it and all these things, you know,
Yeah.
like, and I can't afford to go to these fancy places. And so he's like, I'll take you to my favorite place and like everything's $8 or less. I was
That's
like,
perfect.
okay.
yeah, so we went to Cornish, but it was a bad decision in the sense that it was so loud.
Oh.
So there
So
never
loud.
was an opportunity
It was
to
so
connect.
awkward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
There
what
never
kind
was
of
an
beer do you
opportunity-
like?
Get this. And then we left there and went to a bar that was really loud. And then we went to another bar that was really loud. So it was a horrible
I
day.
remember on the last bar thinking, like, holding my beer and just, like, making eye contact and nodding my head
Yeah.
and in my mind going, like, this is so awkward. Like, this is
You
getting
can't really
bad.
get to know each
this
other.
is getting
Not at all.
bad.
Yeah, you're just
right?
staring at each other in
Like,
the
how is
beer.
this gonna? I don't think we can recover from this. Is like what I was
But-
thinking in my head.
But you did, and so the
We-
second date of romance was where?
We actually did based mainly on a car ride.
we can't talk about that
All right,
though.
cool.
Okay.
I
Not really PC. It's like- we'll tell you off
I can
record.
talk about it. I can
no,
make it PC.
no,
Okay.
we're not going there.
That's okay. It's
Yeah.
it's your story. You tell
But it
whatever
did
you
make
want.
me laugh.
Yeah.
And it won me over, and it was very
I
funny.
acknowledge that it was a bad date. I was like, this is probably the worst date I've ever been on. And she aligned with me, which,
Yeah.
like, luckily
I was
she
like,
wasn't
yeah.
like, what the hell?
It was
Cheer
really
up.
bad.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is probably one of the worst dates I've ever been on. And
So
I
he
said,
was
this
like, I'm going to
wasn't-
tank it. I'm just going to tell you
Yeah.
this story that's like either going to make you think I'm awesome or like just put the nail in the coffin.
And so you're kind of in this boundaried area going, okay, he's a nice guy. I'm going to give him a shot. I don't know if necessarily the romance is there. And you're like, I want to win her over.
Right. I was just like, this is a last ditch effort.
But you
Like,
had kissed me already at that point
I don't remember.
because we hung out as a group of friends and we went back to your house afterwards to like, I don't know, grab someone's car or something.
Yeah.
and you gave us like the tour, and then all of a sudden, and this is after months of us hanging out with like other people in groups and things like
Right.
that. All of a sudden he like leaned in and kissed me, and I remember thinking like, oh, that's what's happening here. Like I had not even, like I like subconsciously I thought maybe something was there, but I was like, he hasn't put a move on me, and it's been months, so I don't think that's what he's after.
My wife did that to me.
Yeah.
She put the move on you?
She put the
or
move
blew
on
you
me.
off?
And then
I
next
like
thing I know,
it.
my pants were off. But
Oh, dang.
it took a
Confidence,
while.
man.
Yeah. No, it
you
was
guys
her
going
confidence. I was scared shitless, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just funny how different roles,
Yeah.
you know,
Are
play.
you guys going swimming or something? Or
Yes,
Kidding.
we were.
No, so the first date was horrible, and then I said, one of my other favorite places is to eat in Tucson, and I said, do you want to go to Tucson sometime?
You said that, but you had never eaten there. You were just trying to hang out with me again.
I had some food from there,
Oh, okay.
but it was all to
thought
go.
you had-
I never sat there and ate.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
your plan is it's a long drive. I can get to know her in the car.
A little bit of that,
Yeah.
but also there was a place I needed to show her in Tucson. So
Yeah.
we went to Cafe Poca-Cosa in Tucson,
Okay.
had a really
It
good
was
meal.
delicious.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was a terrific meal, really good conversation finally, there and back. And then on the way out, I was like, how can I ruin this date? And so I said,
It's going too well. I have to
Yeah.
mess this. I have to sabotage this.
Yeah, I was like, we might not ever go on a date again. We might not ever be in Tucson again.
I was like, fuck it.
So I was like, you want to go to this shithole bar? And I was like, it's been voted the best dive bar in the U.S. And she's like, whatever. And so we went.
I was having a good time.
Yeah.
I wanted to extend it.
So we went to the Meat Rack. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Oh, I haven't.
It's an awful,
Yeah,
but amazing
it's
place.
so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the meat rack.
Yeah. So if you get branded, you can get 50 cents off drinks. For
Like an
your
actual
entire
cattle
life.
brand
Yeah.
with the owner's face.
Oh
Like,
my
online. Talk
God.
about owner being front and center. Like,
Wow. I'm
The-
sure that's a liability way
Man.
down.
If I had
they
my-
don't do it
My
anymore.
Yeah.
keys are in my bag, but he'll give you a tour. His name is God.
Legally, he changed it.
Okay.
It used to be Jim, but he wanted to go by God.
Three letters, same thing. Yeah.
So God will give you a tour if you have a female with you. So God gave us the tour, and Kelsey found it interesting, and then it gave us something else to talk about. Literally for the last 10
I think
years
we could talk
too.
about the tour because
Okay.
he would
This is
you
the
walk
greatest.
in and there's like underwear and bras hanging from the ceiling.
Oh my
There's
God,
like
it's so sad.
it's awful. There's a like a not like a plaque, like a framed,
It's not a frame.
thought it was
It's
framed,
a.
or is it
it's
like-
like a piece of driftwood
My
that's
memory
on the
again.
wall,
Yeah.
and on the driftwood, if you walk in with a sobriety token, he will let you drink for free the entire night.
But you have to give him your token.
Really sad.
So all the
but
tokens are like nailed to the wall.
yeah, they're like pounded into the wall.
So after
Yeah.
people get a sobriety token, they come in
It's
there.
really
Yeah,
sad.
So
Yeah.
you're just like, I'm giving up on
I've never heard of
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
place.
So,
and then all they have on tap is like Heineken and Pabst.
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Like
and
before, it
Heineken.
was like cool, like
Yeah.
the hipster thing to just
Right.
have Pabst. Like it was like, oh, those are my
Yeah,
options.
everything is well. They don't
Yeah.
have anything other, like everything is
Yeah.
non-name brand. It's like, oh, pop off, cool. There's photos everywhere of
Celebrities that have visited.
Gods. Yeah, because it's close to old Tucson studios.
Okay.
So in the 60s and 70s, Jim, as he was known then, would go and be an extra in movies. And so there's all these photos of him being in like movies as bartenders, like here's me with John Wayne, here's me with so-and-so. And so when he gives you the tour,
Yeah.
he walks you around and shows you all these photos, and like he's done it so many times, he like nails it every time. He's like, oh, here's me and so-and-so. Here's, I'm horrible with 70s movie stars since I wasn't born in the
Arnold
70s.
Schwarzenegger was there. They were
Clint
like,
Eastwood.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's just like, dog fucking a pig. And then
doesn't
it
skip
just-
a beat and
doesn't-
just keeps talking about it all. And there's just like a picture of like a dog fucking a
dog
pig.
railing a pig.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you do the whole tour, and then
When you go to the bathroom, he puts a quarter in the
If a
condom
f-
machine and a siren goes off.
if a
and the
female
whole
purchases a
thing.
condom in the female restroom, the entire bar knows.
It's just a button under the bar that they press.
Well, no, that's
during
how it
the
is now.
tour.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Originally, it was like you put some
And
money
it's
in
still
it.
there?
To our knowledge, his
We haven't been in
kids,
quite a few years.
his kids purchased it to
Yeah.
allow him to live his life out with his dream. So,
Yeah.
but there's
We
a,
haven't even gotten to the worst part.
yeah,
There's
there's a sex dungeon.
it's
more of
like
a
this
room. It's not a
room
dungeon. You
that
don't go
they've
downstairs.
converted. It's got, oh my gosh, it's got a chair that has like hydraulics on it. There's like a bed. There's, what are those called?
It's like a cattle prod thing where
No,
the shackles where like you put your
What
arms
is that
in
called
it
where you put your arm in your head?
Oh,
stockade
guillotine?
or whatever.
A stock, yeah, like a stock.
Yeah.
And then there's like a wheel that they strap people to and spin them
And
on
he
the
said the
wall.
wheels for snow cones.
Yeah,
That's what
make
he
it like a snow
says.
cone.
You're just like, what the fuck?
I gotta get this guy.
Dude,
Yeah.
this
All
so
the
this was our
drinks.
second date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great
It was
second
a-
date.
And
Yeah.
and the shag carpeting in that place, it was really tall. I was like, I don't want to be walking on this carpet.
Yeah,
right
no
now.
idea what's on
like
that
the
carpet.
tapestries.
All the drinks had horrible names. Like so
The sex
inappropriate.
dungeon was like the worst part of
It's
the whole
just
thing.
so crazy.
And when we left, like we had more material, more things to
Yeah.
talk about for sure.
We still talk about it. I mean, look
Yeah.
at 10
See,
years later,
I mean, here you guys are. So like match made in heaven. You guys are like,
Yeah. Meet me at the meat rack. Let's go.
wow.
Yeah.
All right, so you come back from Tucson. You guys obviously you're going through the process of dating and courting and doing all this, and
Pretty
then,
much Tucson was like, okay, we
Let's
want to
work
keep
together.
hanging out.
Let's hang
Like,
out.
I mean, we weren't like official, but that was the turning point for me where I was like, what are you doing the rest of the week? You know, like let's hang out.
And you got married 10 years ago.
Yeah, so we got engaged. I mean, we spent months building up to like just being able to date, and finally, January of 2009, we officially started dating. And then it was almost like I just had to decide that that I wasn't gonna ruin this dude's life,
Right.
and like, okay, like I'm really gonna do this. And honestly, like, I don't talk a whole lot about this, but now that we're doing a podcast and I'm putting my personal stuff out on the internet. It was kind of like a guilt thing because growing up I wasn't supposed to date, and so getting anywhere serious in a relationship like that, plus I had already been through like another serious relationship, for me it was like there was guilt associated with doing things like that for myself in my life.
Understood.
So once I was just like, screw it, I really enjoy hanging out with this guy, I'm gonna see where it goes, and just like made the decision to jump in like 100% and do it, then things moved really fast. Then we got engaged like 5 months after that.
Yeah.
And then got married a year after that.
Okay.
But in between that, at one point, Kelsey just wanted to be friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
Why
That was
can't
before I
we
had
be
decided.
friends?
I
Yeah, she hadn't
made the
decided.
decision. I was like, I don't know, like maybe we should take, like this feels like it's going fast. Maybe we should
Well,
just
that's. I mean,
take
you're
some
so young at
space.
that point. I mean, it's
Yeah.
par for the course, and
Yeah.
Yeah. I kept it real with her, though. She said, let's be friends. And I said, I already have enough friends. So, no
yeah.
offense.
And then like a week went by and he didn't call me or text me, and
Your heart
I mean
was
it
empty.
it worked because I was like, why haven't you called me or texted me? And he's like, well, because you told me you didn't want me to. And I was like, boundaries. I like this guy.
That
Imagine
is-
that.
That's relationship 101 right there.
Oh, yeah.
Proud of
We
you,
had,
Jim Bob.
we had a good
Blow 'em
foundation.
off.
Yeah, blow them off.
They
They
love
will
it.
come back, and
Yep.
if they don't, they're not meant to be. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Okay, so before you all decided to go into business with each other, which is another like wow,
It's an impulse.
I
Oh,
mean,
man.
from meat market to or the meat hut or whatever, yeah, meat rack to I mean, what were you doing prior to Worth while you guys are together and married?
So Kelsey was going to school. And
Yeah,
had a
right
couple
when
of
we
jobs.
got married, I had just finished college. So while we dated, I was in my senior year of college.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I had been working to pay for college and things like that. And so it was personally beneficial because, I mean, he really supported me during that time to make sure I could focus and like get through that last part of school and not worry about like,
Yeah.
too much of the finances and things like that. And then I worked in the nutrition world for a little while. I worked for WIC and I worked for the state and audited the National School Lunch Program and did those kind of jobs. And he worked at FedEx and did logistics and sales.
And it was a lot of fun. It was really easy.
Was it?
Oh my gosh, it was so easy. I hit all my numbers for 3 years in a row, and I was like one of the only individual in the entire corporation in the sales department that did it. So like I felt accomplished at it, but I also didn't feel like I was
Yeah.
checking boxes for my goals. So we like did a pact where it was like we have to quit our desk jobs because we weren't necessarily as
He
happy
did it with
as
some
we thought.
friends too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 4 of us did a pact where it was like we have 1 year to quit our jobs. And no one knew what they were going to do. It was
Okay.
just like, all right, in a year, none of us are working at the same place. So we had accountability partners.
Wow.
And I don't know, who was the first person to quit? Was it me?
I think it was Jared.
I think it was Jared.
And we worked at the same place.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So we all quit like one by one, and
Just did different things.
I had a really good job, but I came in with a greeting card for my resignation, and it was like moving on up, even though I had no job.
Had nothing going on here.
Gave it to my district manager, and I was just like, I'm out of here. And he's like, what can we do to keep you? And I was just like, nothing. I hate it here. I was like, I love the job, but I just hate like working in a desk all day long.
It's not your passion.
Cubicle.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just couldn't stand the cube.
So then from there, I got recruited by somebody else who was a district sales manager for FedEx, who left and went to work at Apple. And he was like, oh, it's going to be totally different. And then like I sat at a desk again working at Apple, and I was just like, man, like, is my life meant to be set at a desk right now? And I just wasn't feeling it. Like being on the phone a lot, like just wasn't really me. So I went from a job talking about boxes, like I can ship your boxes, sitting in a box,
Staring
at
at a box,
a computer,
Oh my goodness,
talking it on a phone, which is shaped like a box, going to another job at Apple in business development, doing the same thing, just talking about different kinds of boxes. And I was just like, oh man, can't do this. So we always shopped at like Trader Joe's, and I was just like, I'm gonna give Trader Joe's a shot. And I was just like, Trader Joe's is definitely not for me, because the hours that they kept were so crazy. Some days you would come in at 4 a.m. and then some days you would be there till 1 a.m. So like trucks are coming in, you're putting stuff away.
You already did that with Home Depot.
Yeah,
You
so I was just like,
going back to that.
I don't really think this is for me. And Kelsey had quit her job.
And yeah, I was working in a restaurant group, and I said, hey, I think you'd really like this group, and they're looking for leadership, and you can work at a different store, and we can work for the same company but different locations. And you know, I like the culture. I think it's fun, and I think that it would be, you know, a good pathway towards some of your goals, which were, you know, at the time for him to be in maybe even like a retail leadership type.
Yeah, really more engaging with people on a face-to-face basis was something.
Because that's what you like to do.
Yes, like just talking on the phone, like I wasn't connecting, I wasn't feeling fulfilled.
And hospitality, we always joke around, like hospitality is like socializing for a living, like for front of house at least,
Yeah, like I can talk to you for a minute, get your food, and come back and talk to you.
So you're both over at this restaurant group that I know what it is.
We can talk about it.
Yeah, we don't care.
Hostino's.
Yeah.
And then your time is over there, and then that's when, shortly after that was when I met you guys, was it?
I casually met you during some kind of like lawyer thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
At the lab. So, but it was just in passing. There was no.
I was in Gilbert though, so I hadn't met you until we started Worth and met with you for insurance.
Yeah, we sat over at the Newton or whatever it was.
And so then, you know, we were inspired by the leadership that was at Upward.
Yeah.
To do something on our own, let alone travel. And so we took some time off.
I was there for almost 3 years. You were there for a little over 2.
Yeah. So we took some time off after we left there and traveled with the goal of coming back and opening something. And, you know, it was a lot harder than what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So.
Everything's harder than people think it's
Well, there's a lot of sweat and tears that you guys all put into that. And you know, people that are listening that haven't been there, this is not a large footprint, but it is a large footprint in the essence of the amount of people that come there and get food from you guys, and the amount of production it takes and everything that you have to do.
For the footprint, the volume is very high and especially we don't sell alcohol or anything like that at this point. Right. So it's a lot to logistically keep up with because of the volume that comes through such a small space.
How did the whole sandwich thing come together? I mean, was this something that you guys had talked about?
Like, why not?
For a while? Yeah, I mean,
we had a handful of ideas, and just doing like studies online, it was like the average American eats a sandwich a week.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know how true it is, but I was like, I'm in that category. I eat a sandwich a week.
Sandwiches.
Like,
yeah.
So for us, we were looking for a space, and we were hoping that the space would speak to us. We had a couple ideas of some different concepts, but we wanted a space in our community. So we live in downtown Mesa, and we thought it was important to not be hypocrites and open something further away. And
well, because it was one of those things where, you know, at the time, this was 5 or 6 years ago, and we really enjoyed spending time in our downtown, but it was just really sleepy and quiet, and there just weren't that many options. You know, it was like, how many empanadas can we eat? or how many, how many tacos can we eat? And it was like
great Latin food.
Right. But we wanted some diversity in the cuisine because we found that we were driving away from our own community more often than staying in it to eat because just the amount of options that were there at the time.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to be hypocritical and complain that there weren't more options and then open a restaurant outside of our downtown area. So.
No, it's great. And the fact of the matter is like it's not just a sandwich shop. It's a sandwich shop with uniqueness to it. Like, how did you guys come up with those menu items, ingredient? Was it just a lot of...
When we found the space, it was a sandwich shop before, but they weren't doing the same kind of cooking that we're doing. Yeah. It was a lot of induction burners.
Didn't have a hood.
No hood.
Yeah.
The prep area.
Well, I remember walking in there with you guys when it was like completely you didn't even start construction.
Yeah.
Which sucked. Because I did pretty much the majority of the construction with one other individual.
It was mostly cosmetic stuff.
Oh
right. It was really cosmetic, but you had to pull permits for like the gas line and the hood and things like that. But outside of those big ticket items, it was such a small, it was 900 square feet, which really reminded us of, when we took a little break from the industry before we started Worth, we traveled and we were gone for about 6 months, and it reminded us of a lot of the places on the East Coast or in Europe that were just really tiny kind of hole-in-the-wall spaces that most of them just, like, I remember literally getting back and being like, what is it with the East Coast and sandwiches? Like, everyone just eats sandwiches.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I guess it makes sense for their spaces are small or narrow, and there's not a whole lot of real estate available, and so they have to kind of do what they can with the space that they have. And that was kind of how we felt about the space that we found in Mesa.
You made it your own. You made it a home for many to come, and you must have a ton of regulars that you just know and see.
We do. Yeah. Like, we see them on the street sometime, and it's really weird. Like, the other night we saw our very first customer on the day that we did Friends and Family.
In the area, and he walks his dog, and we're like, oh, what's up, Chicken Salad Mike?
Because that's all he would.
I don't think he likes it, but he would come at like 8 a.m. and get the chicken salad sandwich. We're like, all right, Chicken Salad Mike.
Oh,
that's all he would order. So as soon as, like, when I was working in the kitchen, as soon as I would see him, I would just start making his sandwich just to be like, Mike's here. He wants his chicken salad. So we established regulars.
You established the regulars, and upon opening, what was it like? I mean, what were your expectations? And I mean, you guys have gotten a lot of accolades, and rightfully so, but this stuff didn't just happen overnight from opening the door, did it?
So our first goal was 50 sandwiches a day? 60? Yeah. So we were just like, if we sell 60 a day, we keep the lights on. That's all that really matters. Kelsey was the only front of house employee for like the first 9 months.
6 to 9 months, something like that. Yeah.
And then I was in the back, and Kelsey's mom was gracious enough to come down and help us 3 days a week.
Yeah, it was really minimal.
And then we had one other employee. Her name was Trinity, and Trinity was there 3 or 4 days a week. So there was some days where I would fly solo, and then there were some days where I would have support earlier, but fly solo the rest of the day in the back.
We were open 6 days a week from 8 to 7 then. And so our days felt really long, because after that, I would literally go home that night or spend all day Sunday when we were closed working on like the bookkeeping and like the actual business side of things. So, because you couldn't really work on the business side of things during the middle of the day if you're the front of house person, because someone comes in and interrupts you every,
you lose your
10 minutes or something. Right. Yeah. So, it was pretty grueling, actually.
How many months did it take you to hit your 60 sandwiches a day?
Oh, it was pretty quick.
Yeah, we hit it like the second week.
I think people in the downtown Mesa area were looking for, one of the things we said is we're going to be consistent, because understandably so, a lot of the businesses down there had a hard time keeping regular hours just because the light rail construction had just gone through there, and
sidewalk expansion had taken place.
Yeah, there were just so many changes, and the small businesses were having a hard time keeping up. So sometimes they would just be like, I can't do this today. I have something that came up. I have to leave, so I'm going to close the shop. And so you'd go to get something, and you're like, hey, it's supposed to be open, and it's closed. And so for us, that was like a reputation that had kind of developed in the area, which again, like we, as small business owners, we get it, we understand. Yeah. But we were like, hey, we think this is really important to have consistency. So the hours that we kept being the ones to do those shifts every single time for almost the first year, that was a lot of
Rolling,
commitment.
yeah.
Oh man, it was a nightmare.
And now you
You're
obviously have
exhausted.
people that are part of the team that help you guys to be able to go out and come do
Do stuff like
podcasts during
this.
the day. Or,
You know, we've got an amazing team. I
Yeah.
think right now it's a team of like 22.
I think we're around
Yeah.
20
That's
great.
change.
And you guys did an extension.
We did an expansion.
Yeah.
Yes. It was needed because we didn't have a public restroom.
Right.
And we just hated people coming down and being disappointed with something that we wanted them to have.
Yeah, of
we had a
course.
restroom in the kitchen, but it just wasn't an idea for anyone to walk through our kitchen.
Right.
So we quickly cut that off.
Yeah.
Just like, sorry, it's for staff only. But doing the
We
expansion.
got to squirt people back every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
And you have more plans, right? I mean, is there
We've got a
anything?
gaggle of plans.
Yeah.
Like, I really want. There's a Disney World. They're opening the Star Wars thing.
No.
Yeah. So that's my biggest plan right now for the next 2 years.
Not business related.
Yeah,
Oh,
not
no,
business
I
related, but
do-
that's one of my plans.
Yeah, I'll go
It's a
with
Star
you.
Wars hotel. You don't know about this?
Oh no, I know. I thought it
Yeah.
was open already.
No, I don't think it is.
Okay,
So,
I'll go with
Anyway, plans for business. Yeah, we've got some things in the work. We're trying to relocate our current space into a larger space because we feel that the community has grown that
Yeah.
supported us, and our space is still really small. So, I mean, we went from 900 square feet to
1650.
1650.
Yeah.
So, not really a ton of space. We did like double our seating, but it's not really as impactful.
When you only have, 15 seats to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
Doubling
what's-
your seating isn't
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So it's not as impactful as it should be, and so we're
And you may get into other things, as far as.
we're gonna get into a gaggle of things.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I would say after the first year, we
Started
saw
looking.
growth really quickly. Again, our community really latched on to what we were doing.
Yeah.
I think because of that commitment and how consistent we were. And I mean, when you're there running your own business every day, I mean, you can attest to this, like the bar gets set really high and the standards get set really high and people got used to that and they could count on it. So
And we had accolades. Our first year was the Yelp reward or
top 100.
top 100
Oh, it was huge.
restaurants
Yeah.
to eat at in the U.S.
Yeah.
And
I
we're
mean-
just like, and people would show up and be like, "This place is tiny," and we're like,
Right.
"We didn't ask for the award.
Yeah.
Like, we're super thankful for it.
Right.
Sorry that
Yeah.
your perception is this.
Sorry, it's so small.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah, and that was something that we found is that outside of what our expectation was, people really, especially, I mean, even though we were technically in an urban setting, in an urban environment, we were surrounded by so many suburbs. And I mean, we would joke around, like the mom club would come through with their strollers and they'd be like, "Where should we put our strollers?" And I'd be like, "I have no idea."
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where to park those things because like we really don't have any space for that. And so we realized really early on that people wanted a place that they could be.
Yeah.
And they liked, the look and feel of our place and the atmosphere, and the staff was always so kind and struck up conversations with them and got to know them. And then they liked the food too. And so it was a place that they wanted to be. And we didn't have a whole lot of that in downtown Mesa, places that felt like people could just stay and relax for a little while. And even though we weren't really that, they wanted it to be that. So that's when we started looking for, alternative real estate pretty early on. And it's taken us a few years. We do have plans for an expansion still on Main Street next year,
Yeah.
but it's taken this long to get there and to find the right.
Well, I remember looking at
spot.
several places with you guys, even
Yeah.
like a year and a half ago or something
Yeah.
like that. But your commitment to the community is absolutely huge. I mean, you guys also took over the Mesa Farmers Market.
well, technically we didn't take it over. There was no farmers
It
market
had shut
anymore.
down for a
Yeah.
couple years.
Shut down.
Yeah,
okay.
and so we
And
started a
You
new one.
You revived it.
Yeah.
We revived it and redid it pretty
Yeah.
much. But we felt that it was important for people to be able to have food in the community
Yeah.
and to have access to that.
And help other small businesses
It's amazing.
have, a
Yeah.
baseline of where to start growing their business from, have a place that they could actually low risk go and start selling whatever their product was.
So cool.
So that was a big thing for us. People like you and Scott Holmes from Little Miss Barbecue. And we had a lot of people early on that were very generous with their time for us. That, if we didn't have that guidance and those connections, that worth might not be what it is and what we've been able to grow it to today without that insight and that help. And so we feel really strongly that it's important to pass that on and give our time to other people too, and give other people resources to be able to do their own thing. So.
Well, I'm humbled by your statement. It's so beautiful to be able to help, just other beautiful energies that are out there. And then, like you said, to be able to give back, and you hope that sort of contagion is the contagion that we want to see moving forward, and not this other shit going on in the world. Yeah. So it's, it's
what's going on in the world.
It's amazing. I don't know what date is it?
What
So, but no, that's really cool. And I'd be remiss without talking about Jim Bob's Burgers. So you have to tell the crowd about.
So we do a pop-up every year on Halloween, but it started as a joke.
I mean, we do different specials at Worth all the time. We found that if we did rotating specials, it kept people. I mean, we started with 6 sandwiches on our menu and 3 breakfast items, and people got through our menu pretty quickly.
Right.
So it turned into okay, well, let's do a different special every week. And at one point, one of those specials was a burger, and it was a joke because we love the show Bob's Burgers. It's like Jim Bob's Burgers, And so it was just an internal kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as finally after a couple years of joking around and sitting through painfully slow Halloween services.
Our Halloween before the first one that we did we probably did $300 in sales in the evening.
Oh, wow.
It was almost
pathetic.
Should we even be here?
Right.
Maybe we should close.
That's scary alone.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It was just us sitting around because we sent everyone else home.
Yeah. It was Kelsey in the front and me and one other employee in the back. And I was making him do tasks where he thought I was just joking. I'd be build 70 grinder sets. And he's like, ha 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 ha. And then I was like, no, for real. We have to have something to do. And I'm this is what we sell
to be
in
productive.
4 days.
No, really did.
Yeah, this is what we sell in 4 days. So we need to get our pars right. And it was just crickets the whole night. The business that was next door to us was handing out candy.
Yeah.
And then they walked in at the end of the night with bags of candy. And they were no
so
one's
slow.
showed up in a while. Here you go. You guys want some candy? So for me and the one employee, he was like, this is the greatest. I'm hanging out with mom and dad, eating candy if I want to, or I got all this free candy. So we were literally at the end of that night, we're like, we got to do something different next year. And so
at least to entertain ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did.
So we thought it was going to just be a joke.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where as business owners, when you do something new, sometimes that kind of gives that fresh breath of energy and new kind of life into what you're doing. Oh, this is fun and this is for us. And so when we started Jim Bob's Burgers, it was well, let's just dress up the store for Halloween. Let's really do it. Let's do a pop-up. Let's take it seriously. Yeah, grow your mustache out. Let's take it seriously. Let's really transform the store. Let's not serve anything from our regular menu. We're committed. If we're going to do it, we have to really do it. So we started planning it a couple months beforehand, which was probably pretty rushed considering what we did. And we took down all of our art. We took down our menu board. We had a graphic designer come through and do different designs and stuff for us, parody art.
We invested so much money
in the first year, because we were just screw it, this is for us. We're having fun planning this and doing it and thinking of little details that shouldn't matter but just are fun for us, Easter eggs that people who love the show, if they do come down, and if we do more than $300 in sales, people who come will appreciate it.
And more importantly, it also allowed the staff to do something different. When sometimes things get monotonous. And the specials allow the staff to feel things aren't monotonous.
Yeah.
And we try and allow the staff to move to different positions in the kitchen based on certain days.
Right.
So those are the things that we can control, but doing a pop-up like Jim Bob's Burgers, it allows us to do something completely different where people are testing their skills even more, especially with what the volume turned out to be.
So what happened?
Yeah.
So
gosh.
we usually do 250 to 300 covers a day on average.
Okay.
Which for our space is
huge.
It's dumbfounding.
Yeah.
But the first year, when we did the orders, we told our reps, we don't know what this is going to be like. We might need to call you and you might need to relay some stuff to us. And they were like, yeah, sure,
because it started to get, once we promoted it, it started to gain some traction. So we're okay, we'll have people here. This'll be a thing.
Yeah. So we sold out of our initial food order by the end of lunch. And
it was 2:00.
Yeah, we were
out of food.
Yeah, and the staff was like, are we done? What do we do? And so I'm calling the rep and he's like, I don't have any product for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can go pick up some ground beef chubs and you guys can just patty them yourself.
We were literally pattying burgers to order.
I was like, dude, you don't realize how busy we are.
It was insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
We did I want to say 40% more business that day than we had on any of our busiest days. It was insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then we got a lot of feedback because we did it on Halloween. And we got a lot of feedback from people who were like, I really wanted to come, but my kids are in school earlier in the day. And then we trick or treat at night. And so we were like, well, it's our busiest day. Should we do it for 2 days? And it can accommodate some of those people who are unable to make it on Halloween. And we did it for 2 days, and it was
the next year,
even busier for just 2 days.
It was mind-blowing. Like, but this guy, he's like the king of logistics and like had everything planned to a T. We take really, really great notes each year now afterwards. And this will be our 3rd year. So we go off our notes from last year and go, okay, you know, what was it like and what percentage over do you think we'll do? And even last year, we went pretty aggressive with our orders and things, and I'm so glad that we did. But he was getting people, I mean, actually, Little Miss Barbecue lent us a flat top to do it because we only had a 6-burner, and we were like putting these planches on it to do it the first year, and it was a nightmare. Yeah. So we like swapped out equipment even for it, and it was it was crazy because the line last year would be anywhere between 80 to 100 people, and if you were the last person in line by the time, and this could have just been a fluke from last year, but like it was awesome. If you were the last person in line, from the time it took you to stand in line, order your food, and then get your food was 20 minutes. It was a solid 70 people for like 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that speaks volume in regards to the team more than anything else. You know, the planning beforehand, like we can do that all day long, but when the team executes,
the execution is what really matters.
It was just so
it's
impressive.
All hands on deck.
Yeah. So we're getting ready to do it again this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the 30th and the 31st.
Yeah, we're super excited about it. We've got more like parody merch that we've done this year since concerts aren't really taking place.
Are there backstage passes?
We should figure something out for that.
I don't even know what you would get with it.
Maybe just get your burger quicker in the back door.
Some VIP stuff,
I'll pay extra.
VIP packages.
Look, I got my pass.
And now the podcast is full circle.
20 minutes just went down to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you guys are now in a position where you have a successful restaurant, you have successful, putting together of aspects of having, employees and business and mindset and all that. So getting just into your guys' perspectives of when you're away from the restaurant and you're together and you're hanging out with friends and doing all of your own stuff, what are some of the values as far as I want to talk specifically about like your own, your own food, your own fitness regime and your own like meditative, focus, types of things. Those 3 F's. I want to know what you guys value or cherish.
Friends, food, and what was the other one?
Fitness. Is that
it? Food, fitness, focus. Yeah.
Lately I'm about fit and food. Kelsey's got a pretty good regiment. My back has been hurting me lately, but we did buy a Peloton.
Okay.
And I
technically we're renting to own.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, 0% financing is great.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed that. I think I like a treadmill a little bit more, but with the gyms being closed, the Peloton has made some sense for me.
Yeah, we've done some more at-home stuff. For me, I mean, honestly, starting your own business and the amount of energy and work and stress that it ends up being, for me, I really had to, in the first few years, focus on how I was going to balance it. And it's really, really easy as a small business owner to neglect yourself and to not make time for yourself and create burnout. And so my mindset is always like, how can we avoid burnout? Like, what do we have to do? And how do we rein ourselves back in? And we're recognizing where that line is and when we've crossed it and when we have to back up and take some space. And so one of the things was like, we would go on a trip, finally after I think year 3, things were stable enough that we could like leave town for a couple days. Because before that we really couldn't. And so that was nice, but then we found like, okay, traveling and things like that, you're almost like more tired when you come back. It really has to be a daily thing that you're creating balance. Otherwise it's just not sustainable. So, I do enjoy, I think for me, I have kind of like an underlying depression that I didn't realize until I got older was kind of always there. And I found really good things to help me, naturally combat that a little bit. Fitness is one of those things. So that always changes. But early on it was, I had to deconstruct a lot of, religious things in my life and kind of figure out some peace for myself. And through that, I realized, okay, like, I don't need to have like a spiritual chore list.
Right.
And sometimes meditation is going for my run or going for a hike, or, you know, so that's what really helped me create some balance, was not having crazy expectations on myself. Perfect. And listening to my body and what feels good and what feels restorative. Sometimes restoration is drinking a half a bottle of wine and watching Game of Thrones, you know, right. Sometimes it's, hey, like, we started a second business and we've been doing a farmer's market every weekend, and I just need to lay in bed and watch 7 hours of Game of Thrones because, like, I haven't been in bed like that for months. So
you absolutely,
it changes all the time.
Yeah,
and it has to be flexible.
Spoke so eloquently to what it is that I think people as individuals, what it is that I think people as individuals, you know, when they take the time to look inside of themselves and see what they enjoy for themselves, and not look any further than that, because sometimes you can go down the wrong path of saying, oh my God, this is the right way, when really you only yourself know the right way. So that's awesome.
And for Jim, I really think it's social interaction, you know, like his cup's really filled when he spends time with friends and things like this, where we're just having conversation and not focusing on work, and, you know, there's no expectations.
100%.
Or trying to, like, outdo one friend with beer all the time.
Beer, that's his thing.
I'm gonna come and sit on your couch and watch Mandalorian with you, because I think that would be exciting.
Beer. Yeah, well, you're not drinking right now, right?
No.
It's been what, like a couple years?
You don't.
6.5.
There you go. So.
Right now.
But that's okay. I do like a nice turmeric tea.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
I have kombucha.
Yeah, perfect. All right, we'll do that. All right, I have some quick rapid fire questions for you guys. Either one.
Are they yes or no's?
Oh no, they're better than yes or no's.
I was like,
okay. Fruit Loops or Count Chocula?
Post O's.
That works. You're a Count Chocula?
Out of those ones, yeah, I would say. Oh,
I did just have a beer with
Honey.
those cereals, though.
Did you see?
Yeah.
It's
Count Mashula from J. Wakefield in Florida.
I'm more of a chocolate lover, though.
Are you? Okay. Hotel room or an Airbnb?
Airbnb.
A hotel room.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess it kind of depends, because we go back and forth.
We Airbnb'd so much when we traveled, because we first we were like, let's stay in a hostel, and it was like, we won't be together. And then we started looking at Airbnbs because we could stay in the same room, of course.
For like $10 more.
Yeah, so that made even more sense for us, but the amenities sometimes of a hotel is really cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Just depends.
Yeah. If it's an Airbnb, I like it to be like separate quarters as much as possible. That way I don't feel like
privacy,
I'm imposing.
Yeah, understood. Okay, a long hike up in the mountains, or would you rather do like a 50-mile bike ride?
Where's the bike ride?
Wherever you want it to be.
He's like, can I have a beer?
I'm probably more of a bike ride. Kelsey's probably more mountains.
I'm mountains.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Podcast or the radio?
Podcast. Yeah.
Okay. Would you rather be reading a book in the woods, or would you rather have a beer on the beach?
I think we're both going to be opposite. I'm on the beach with a beer.
Woods,
yeah. I see a lot of your travel. Well, for your birthday, you're up there in Flagstaff. Yep.
Yeah, that was super rad.
That was awesome. Barbecue or pizza?
That's like a really loaded question for Jim.
Where's the barbecue from?
Wherever
My
you want
pick?
it to
All
be.
right, cool, barbecue.
Yeah.
Pizza.
This is great. Van Halen or The Cure?
Van Halen, 100%.
I abstain.
No offense. The Cure's too sad.
It's a little touching.
Yeah.
Disneyland or Catalina Island?
Catalina Island, the Catalina wine mixer, Disneyland, 100%.
This dude, like, hey, do you want to go somewhere different for vacation this year? No, I just want to go to Disneyland.
Yeah.
We went to Disney Paris, and I was like, only if we have enough points on our credit card can we spend the money on this.
And
I was like, it's going to be a letdown, dude. And he did not believe me. And then we did it, and he was like, it was a letdown.
It sucks so
Well,
hard.
you were texting me pictures from Star Wars Land when you guys, I think you went first.
Oh, out of the people that you knew?
Yeah.
I was like, we didn't go like the first day. We went
we
months
waited
later.
a little while,
Yeah, I waited a little bit too, but you were still.
I'd
Did you go
probably
to
be
the
the wine
cantina?
mixer.
Yeah,
Did you
Cantina's
blow?
a ripoff.
Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah.
You even warned me, but I'm like, I gotta experience
You
it.
still have to do it.
Yeah, you got to go inside.
Yeah.
You gotta go inside. All right, last one: gardening or baking?
We are actually trying to start a garden here soon. So
Yeah, we're cleaning up our backyard.
yeah, so gardening.
Probably gardening. I mean, I like to cook more than bake, so I'd say gardening.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a neighbor across the street though that's got a dope ass garden. They distribute it to what's the place in Pomegranate Cafe.
Cafe.
Oh, pomegranate. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so like
It's not a garden. It's an urban farm.
Oh God, I'm so jealous. I gotta have you guys over to my garden.
It's a vegan urban farm too.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's really rad.
That's cool.
Yeah, she gave us a cantaloupe one year, and I
Dude,
was like,
it's
oh
the
my gosh, this is the best cantaloupe I've ever had.
Yeah. I wanted to tell Kelsey to quit eating it. This is not any good. Well, I'm just covered in cantaloupe.
You're hiding it. Yeah. I hide stuff in the fridge for my wife all the time.
Now she knows.
She sometimes finds it.
Unless she doesn't listen to your podcast.
She hears enough of me. She'll probably listen to this one because she knows you guys. But no, this was so cool. So where can everybody find you, where you want them to find you as far as social media or any of that other stuff?
Instagram and Facebook, Worth Takeaway, and Jim Bob's Burgers.
And Mesa Farmers Market in Flea.
Yeah. Well, Mesa Farmers Market is the handle for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you don't have to have the flea part for that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for
Thank you
hanging
for
out with
having
me.
us.
We cruised over an
This is the most
hour.
we've talked
over an
about
hour?
ourselves
Yeah.
in a while. Other than the stuck in traffic, this is the most we've talked about ourselves. in a while.
Absolutely perfect. So, yeah, thank you everybody for listening.
And watching.
And watching if you are watching. But anyways, please, if you get a chance, go on to the podcast. You can listen to it through Apple, Spotify, any of those. Give us a 5-star because they're really cool. And it just helps with the circulation of it. Also, join the Bar and Restaurant podcast list. We have a lot of cool giveaways with gift certificates and stuff like that to restaurants out here in Arizona. And that's it. Thank you to Bar Restaurant Insurance, my company, for sponsoring the podcast, and thank you to Local 480 for the production. Thank you to Casey, who is a rock star, and Christian, who's a rock star. And we will see you guys on the next podcast. Bye.